Hi there, I'm Callie Scales with Esports Illustrated, and joining me today is a man who needs no introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. He is the Vox Populi, the people's caster. Azael joins us today. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you so much.
It has been, let's start talking a little bit about the event itself. Obviously, we've got C9 taking on Golden Guardians today. What is, one of the most popular teams in North America, and then one of the greatest feel-good stories in recent LCS memory. How are you feeling about today?
I'm incredibly excited. I think on paper everyone's going to be favoring Cloud9, but I think that for pretty much every step of the way, people have been favoring Golden Guardians' opponents, right? And they've been proving people wrong at every step. And I think it is just such an incredible story to see how far they have come and how far above expectations they have gone. When I think back to when we did our power rankings and stuff at the start of the split, I think we probably had them 7th, 8th. That's where most people, I think, had Golden Guardians. And even them just going 9-9 in the regular season was wow, you guys really did a good job. You really overperformed, what people thought you were going to be able to accomplish. And to see them really go so far beyond that, and to not only win a playoff series, but to win multiple playoff series, make it all the way to the finals, is just crazy. Because this is an organization that had won one playoff series in its history, and now they're in the finals. And they're not doing it with some superstar, a bunch of imports or all these players that are up and comers who are brand new to the scene and are expected to crush. It's with all these guys who were considered washed up, who have been kind of passed over by many other teams. Licorice, obviously coming into the scene with Cloud9, was so hyped up, and then kind of gets let go by Cloud9. He's with FlyQuest in a rebuilding phase. Now he's with Golden Guardians, and even throughout this split was getting tons of criticism. And you think about that leading to where he is in playoffs now, where he's playing carries, he's counterpicking, and he's dominating. Huhi and Stixxay, their story is also incredible. Being reunited after actually playing on CLG so many years ago. Stixxay hasn't been to a finals in 7 years, and now makes it after getting relegated down to academy, then not even having an academy slot and becoming a coach, to being back and arguably playing the best League of Legends of his career. It's crazy, right? It's some Rudy level story, right? It's almost sounds fake.
It makes me think of Worlds last year, where I felt like we picked against DRX in every round of the tournament all the way until they won everything, and that's kind of how I feel like it's been for Golden Guardians this season, where they've just been picked against constantly, but they just keep winning. And throughout the day yesterday, FlyQuest, outside of I think one game, I wouldn't say there was any point where I felt like GG was just out of it. They were competitive constantly, and really they controlled the pacing of the match a lot. I want to talk a little bit about you. Obviously, you've kind of, last couple of years, you've shifted away from, working full-time with Riot. You're now doing a lot of your own stuff. What has it been like getting to kind of get out there into the esports scene again and kind of do things that you're passionate about and make your choices?
It's been a lot of fun. I think, it gives me some more flexibility in some of the stuff I've done. I've done some more working with teams. I'm looking into maybe casting some TFT. This year I got to start casting some WoW again, which I hadn't done in a long time, which was just really fun for me and kind of a throwback. Especially, I don't know if you know the WoW scene at all, but Ben Ruki is one of my oldest friends from esports, a guy I've known for 15 years, and someone I competed against for many years. And he started casting right after I stopped casting WoW. So we never got to cast together, but we're really close friends. So going back and getting to cast with him was really, really special. And it's just been kind of fun to kind of have the variety. I love League of Legends, and I love casting League of Legends, but it's also fun to have a mix up and do different things. My background as a caster was way more doing play-by-play than it was doing color casting. And so that's something I haven't really been able to do in League. So going back to WoW and getting to do some play-by-play and doing different styles, as each game I think really does kind of have a different style of casting that they expect. It's just a lot of fun.
Obviously, WoW has had, let's generously say, some up and down years, especially recently. How do you feel about the new expansion?
I think Dragonflight's a lot of fun. I was playing it a ton at the start. I haven't been playing it as much recently. Solo Shuffle I really enjoyed, just because for me the difficulty when I go back to WoW is always just finding the people to do the things I want to do in the game. It often feels like you spend more time looking for a group than you do doing the thing you want to actually do. So Solo Shuffle for me was a lot of fun. I kind of wanted to prove to myself that I could still get high rated, so I got to rank 3 on the ladder and stuff, doing Solo Shuffle, which was a blast. I don't really have any complaints.
as a Final Fantasy XI veteran, I understand the struggle of having to find a group to do anything. Yeah. At the beginning of this season in the LCS, obviously major changes in the LCS, shifting over to Thursdays and Fridays. You were pretty vocal about the concerns, and you weren't alone. A lot of people had a lot of concerns. It definitely felt on its face like it felt like we were being relegated a little bit. You know, we're being taken off the weekend primetime, putting on a Thursday and Friday, especially a lot of kids are still going to be in school when games are starting. Now, as we're getting towards the end of the spring split, how do you feel about it?
I mean, I think there's some positives and negatives, right? Like part of the positive side is supposed to be that there's not overlap between all these different Riot products. So hopefully, if people are a fan of a lot of different things, that they can watch all of it. I think the difficulty for me, and one of the things that I knew was going to be a difficulty, was that the atmosphere in the studio is such an important part of the experience for me, both for the people who are there, but also for the fans who are online. I do think it's actually really important for them. And just to be frank, it's way harder to fill a studio on a Thursday afternoon than it is on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, right? And that's something that I knew was going to be difficult, and I think that's something that has been difficult at times throughout this split. Because I do think that even as an online viewer, you feed off the energy of the crowd, right? And that, I think, is what, when we're at an event like this, you really realize how special it is and how different it is when you hear the roar of a crowd, after an incredible play like in Game 4, Licorice hits that Malphite ultimate and the place just goes from like silent, thinking the game is over, to just like ear-shattering in a second, right? And so that's something that I do kind of miss about the Saturday and Sundays, is that there were better crowds. But overall, I mean, I'm very happy about most of the changes that we've had this split. I really do like the content and the direction that we've been doing. I've loved the incorporation of players into the broadcast, and that has been like something that we've really wanted to do, from player casting to having players actually in like different content pieces. We've had more people be able to come on the dive, doing analyst desk stuff. We've had players doing interviews and telestrator breakdowns, and like, to me, I think that's really, really cool, because I think fans need to have the attachment to those players to be interested in tuning into the league, right? You need to have that reason that you want to show up and watch Immortals, or you want to show up and watch Cloud9. And I think if you don't know about the players and don't know the player's personality and have that kind of attachment, then you don't really have that reason to do it.
Speaking of personality, one thing I've noticed in the LCS this season is I think they've done a better job this split than I've ever seen them do of building up the personality, building up kind of that attachment that you can get to players. I think of players like Fudge and Blabber, and like I look at Fudge and I could see like a generational like superstar talent there, not only in that he's very good at the game, but he's so entertaining and fun to be around. Is that a mixture of the LCS has struggled to be competitive on the world stage, so let's maybe focus on the personality, or is that just a natural byproduct of esports has been around for a while now, so people are coming up who are entertaining?
I mean, I think it's more just, we want to focus on it not because we're not doing well internationally, but because I think that this is something that like amplifies your interest in the league regardless, right? If LCS is doing poorly internationally, but you really care about the players, you're going to tune in. And if LCS is doing really well internationally and the players are really entertaining, then I think that's just going to boost viewership even more. So I think it's kind of a force multiplier. As far as like why someone like Fudge is really entertaining, I don't know. I mean, I think he just has a great personality for it. A lot of Australians that I've met, are very boisterous and like, outgoing and kind of have that fun personality. And I think Cloud9 is lucky to have all these players that do have great personalities and are great for content. And that's something that like, I don't know if it's like a media training thing or if it's just like the vibe at Cloud9 or whatever, but that's been something that's been true with Cloud9 forever. When you think back to like Sneaky Meteos days and everything, and when Sneaky left, people were kind of like, Cloud9 is dead, they're never going to be fun again, whatever. And then you have guys like Fudge, and Sven is like hilarious and amazing in content as well. He's so honest. Blabber is fantastic. Berserker is like really funny. Like their whole team is actually really, really entertaining. And then M&S was such a surprise. Like his streams are hilarious. So they have a lot of guys that are not only really good at the game, but also really fun to watch, which I think is that kind of compelling combination that a lot of the like most kind of like magical teams have had. We think like LEC at its peak was G2 and that like group of personalities that really got along well and made you want to watch and laugh along with them, but also then kicked ass at the game. And I think Cloud9 has been lucky to kind of build something like that themselves.
Well, it's a culture thing. Winning breeds winning, and when people think of, entertaining personalities and they think of C9, then as talented, entertaining players come up, they think, I want to play for C9. So I can definitely see how, as you build it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. Obviously, it's a weird time in the LCS right now. We're getting ready to say goodbye to some teams that have been around for a minute, most notably CLG. Everyone's kind of waiting with bated breath to see what's going to become of TSM. What does this mean to you as we see some names like NRG getting ready to enter back in? How do you feel about the LCS just overall?
I mean, it's tough, right? I think when you lose teams that have been around for so long that you have such an attachment to, when I think about the LCS, I watched literally all the games even before I was coming in as a caster, right? So I've been following the LCS for a long time. This is my 8th year with the league, so I've been here for a while myself. I think back to a lot of my memories of LCS, and it's like, 2016 was such a this glorious year for CLG, and even in the more modern years, them upsetting expectations. I have such an attachment to that it is sad to see them go. But the reality is that in this socioeconomic time, the economy is hurting, right? There's high inflation, and a lot of esports organizations are propped up by VC money, and a lot of the VCs are pulling back on their investments. And that's something that is not just an LCS problem, but this is something that's being felt across the space, across a lot of different games and in a lot of different regions. I think that there's obviously a lot of discussion about it with LCS because there's CLG are leaving, NRG is coming in. There's rumors about TSM and 100 Thieves and so on, which is scary to hear.